Are we up and running live streaming? Hi guys, welcome to live streaming. We've had a fab day and we're going to crack on with the next part. Okay, so this evening what we're going to look at is DNA and our thinking. So I shared a little bit about my story today, and it was through walking through that part of my journey that he started to open the whole realm of how to reprogram your DNA. Because we have the capacity to reprogram our DNA. And what I'm talking to you about now is not spiritual. This is science. Okay, so this has nothing to do with spirituality. It's just the way we're designed. Now, as we go along, I'll explain to you how it links in with the scriptures, because of course it's all there, because hey, don't know if you know this, but the guy who created us, he gave us a handbook for life. So generally, there's some keys in here that make living a lot easier. But I'm loving the fact that neuroscience, oh my goodness, neuroscience floats my boat. Because it is just such a fascinating science. I'm just loving it, in case you hadn't caught that. Okay, so this book here, it's called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Caroline Leaf. If you haven't read it, yeah, it's a fabulous book, okay? So quite a lot of the material that I'll be sharing comes from this book, but other sources that I've discovered along the way. So to quote Caroline Leaf, who is a communication pathologist and audiologist who's worked in the field of neuroscience since 1985, so she's got a few things under her belt. All thinking activity is real and can be seen on brain imaging. So if you think that your thoughts are irrelevant, your thoughts are very relevant. You know that scripture that says, take captive every thought? There's a reason for that. And I'm going to unpack that for you tonight. So just the mind activity from engaging with the last few sentences generates electromagnetic, electrochemical, and quantum actions in your neurons. So you're sitting there and you're just thinking and processing what I'm saying. And as a result of that, that generates electromagnetic, electrochemical, and quantum actions. So it causes magnetic fields that can be measured, electric impulses that can be tracked, chemical effects that can be seen and measured, and photons activated that can be captured on computer screens. Energy activity that can be explained using quantum physics, and vibrations in the membranes of the neurons that can be picked up by instrumentation. So you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm just thinking. And while you're just thinking, you're doing all of those things. So our thought life, our thought processes have a life. So this combined activity sets up an intricate and organized sequence of actions of neurotransmitters, proteins, and energy that forms a signal. Your thinking has just created a powerful signal that is going to change the landscape of your brain. And this signal you've just created passes through the membrane of the cell, travels to the cell nucleus, and enters the chromosome, activating a strand of DNA. The DNA is zipped up like a cocoon until it is activated or unzipped by the signal. And as it opens and the code is read by the RNA, which is a type of protein that almost acts like a photocopier, makes a photocopy of the code, which serves as a guide or architectural plan to build the proteins within the cell. As these proteins you have just caused to be built by your thought process, hold the information you have just received through a thought or memory, you have created a substance. So, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. You create you.
Wow.
So the question is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to create? So we spent a good part of today uncreating, allowing the Father to deal with all the nonsense that we've come into agreement with. Now, the interesting thing is that we've talked about the whole process of a thought, and a thought at the end of the process has created a substance. Okay? And faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is a substance. So we can create the substance of faith through the substance of our thought patterns and processes. So in a study by the Institute of Heart Math, it showed that thinking and feeling anger, fear, and frustration cause DNA to respond by tightening up and becoming shorter, and switching off many DNA codes, causing it to shut down in our, that should say body. However, this was shown to be reversed by feelings of love, joy, appreciation, and gratitude. So, when the Bible says, think of everything that is pure and holy and noteworthy and praiseworthy, and, in Philippians 4, basically he's saying, think my thoughts. This is how I function, think my thoughts, okay? Actually, what he's saying is, if we can think those things, the impact that it has on our DNA is to regenerate a healthy DNA. But to think negatively has an impact on our DNA. Now, this is all stuff that we've been taught, but perhaps haven't disciplined ourselves to live with. So what he's saying to us in this age of revelation with science is, listen guys, if you want to live a healthy life, I've given you the keys. You can think your way to health. Now, that's not hocus pocus nonsense. Medicine is now proving this. So, I don't know if you guys have Netflix, look up a documentary called Heal. Is there anyone here that's watched that documentary? It is fabulous. Okay. So this is a documentary that is completely secular. And there's a guy there called Joe Dispenza.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah?
I know.
You know him?
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy, he had an accident in the 80s on a bicycle. I wondered what you called it, yeah. On a bicycle. And, oh, by the way, this is the lovely Alison. She's part of the ministry, and she's just arrived this evening. So please welcome her and make her feel fabulous. So Joe Dispenza had this accident, and he was paralyzed. And the doctors recommended a surgery called the Harrington rod, where they fuse the spine. And there is a possibility for recovery from that. But he decided that he was going to discharge himself from the hospital, and he was going to try a different method. And he said he believed that the power that made the body heals the body. And he would spend hours each day visualizing the vertebra in his back and visualizing healing and restoration. And he said it took 6 weeks of spending hours every day doing this. But after 6 weeks, he got some movement in his hand, and he knew that something was happening. Now, medically, this is impossible. When the medical industry tell you that something is impossible, what they're really saying is, we don't know. Because with each passing decade, even in the realm of medicine, what was impossible becomes possible. Okay? So, what we need to understand is that the Father is wanting to open up new ways of us dealing with health and wholeness. And we have abdicated our responsibility to the pharmaceutical companies. So if we go back to biblical times, now I know that in biblical times there were physicians. Can I just tell you that those physicians were not trained by the pharmaceutical companies? They were physicians, and they did have an understanding of anatomy. And actually they were working with the understanding of anatomy. They were working with the understanding of nutrition and oils and all sorts of things for health and wholeness. So what has happened is that we've bought into this concept that it is no longer our responsibility for health, because when I get ill, I go to the doctor and he fixes me. Okay. So I just want us to look at what that looks like. So the most medical, and I don't know what it's like here, I only know what it's like in the UK, but most medical schools are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Okay? So it is absolutely in their interests to teach the doctors about the drugs. So there is no training on nutrition. When I went through my first cancer story, I remember saying to the doctor, now, we understand that we eat well to stay well. And everyone understands that as a concept, okay? So you would think that eating well would be a requisite of getting well. When you're not well.
Right.
So when I had the diagnosis, I said to the doctor, okay, so what must I do to aid my recovery? And basically he said, don't worry about anything like that. Chemotherapy is what is going to make you better.
Right.
It seems bizarre that we've brought into this concept that something that will take you within an inch of your life, will kill you to within an inch of your life, has life in it.
Right.
It's just insanity, really, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, obviously the pharmaceutical companies are out to make money. That's their purpose. They have shareholders and they have to produce a dividend to their shareholders. Now, it is not legal to patent something that exists. You know that. You can't patent something that exists. Okay? So if the pharmaceutical companies want to patent something, what they do is they find something that exists in nature because they found something that works, and it works because God created it. Okay? Now, they can't take that thing and patent it because it already exists. So they have to take that thing and they have to change it slightly. Because that's the only way they can patent it. However, in the slight modification, what they do is they completely change its genetic makeup. Now, something that God created to actually be healing and restorative to the body, something that actually is harmonious to our body, because all the plants and all the herbs and all the stuff that's out there is harmonious to our body, and it keeps our body in harmony. The pharmaceutical companies have changed that. And so there's a dissonance that actually gets absorbed. There's a disharmony that gets absorbed into the body. That is why when you read the back, there's all those contraindications. So you take this and this is going to actually take your headache away today. But in 5 years' time, you could have thinning veins and blood clots and this and that. And in 10 years' time, you could have 4 horns growing out the top of your head and whatever. Okay. And that's because they've got to be able to make the money. So they've got to be able to make the money. So that's what they do. And there has to be there is a level of difference that has to be there for them to be able to patent it. Now, before we all go having a downer on the pharmaceutical companies, I just want to say that we've bought into this. So we have to take responsibility for this. Because nobody's forced us to go to the doctor. We can actually look for a different alternative. And I was talking earlier today about how in my journey, in my second journey with cancer, Jesus has been my naturopath. Now, that actually seems extreme because we all just want a formula. We all just want the prescription. Just go to the doctor, he'll give you a prescription, he'll tell you what drug, he'll tell you how many to take and how often to take it, and he'll tell you how long it will take before you get better. Because actually we need control.
Right.
When we go to the doctor, we feel like we're in control. When we go to Dr. Jesus, there is no control, guys, because he's the boss. But what is incredibly amazing about Dr. Jesus is that he has got X-ray vision. And he can look inside you and see exactly what you need. Now, we are all have a different chemical makeup. We aren't a one-size-fits-all. We aren't a one-pill cure-all. So when you hear people's stories, and there are a lot of people out there that are beating cancer who don't have Dr. Jesus, they're just beating cancer just by going with their intuition. I love that word, intuition. Because what I've discovered is that the Holy Spirit is so incredibly awesome. He'll let you call him anything you like. He'll even let you call him intuition.
Yeah.
You know that our bodies know what we need. Our bodies know what we need. And when I was going back to the hospital and dealing with the oncologist and surgeon, and I really didn't want to go down the Jesus route. Not because I'm ashamed of him, but because actually it's futile. So I thought, I'm going to try a different route. It was just as futile. But I said, I'm going to listen to my body. My body is going to tell me what I need, and I'm going to intuitively know what to take. My journey has been incredibly exciting, and it has been an ongoing thing. So for the first couple of weeks, he was saying to me, okay, this is what I want you to take. And then he's like, now I want you to add some other things into your regime. And it was like miraculous things, like things would just pop up on my computer. Like I hadn't even done a Google search and something would just pop up on my computer. Because when you make Jesus your naturopath, he takes that seriously. And he pops up all over the place and says, have you thought about this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And then there were other times when he said, I want you to watch this, I want you to engage here, I want you to do this, I want you to contact, I think I talked a little bit about, I don't know if I talked a little bit about my RAF journey. I think I'll probably go there more extensively at some point this week. But that was one of the things he said, I want you to get a RIFE machine. Well, RIFE, R-I-F-E, yeah. Where do you even start? You know what I mean? I don't even understand the difference between a square wave and a whatever the other waves are. Yeah, great, RIFE machine, lovely. Where do I start? Which one do I get? So he said, join some RIFE groups on Facebook. I was like, oh, what a genius. I don't know if you've come across that. He is pure genius. And sometimes I do things and people say, that's so clever. And I say, I wish I could take the credit for that. So I joined a Facebook group, and the very next day, this guy posts on the group, and he says, I'm a veteran, obviously here in this country. I'm a veteran, and I work with veterans who are sent home to die. And I buy them life machines, and I help them fight terminal cancer. So if you have a terminal cancer story, I'd love to hear your story because it will help me get funding. So the Lord said to me, and he gave his email address. So the Lord said to me, email him. So I emailed him. I said, hi. I'm afraid at this point in time, I don't have a story for you. I'm going to have a story for you, but today I don't have a story for you. But I need to know how to get a story for you. Can you help me? And it was completely amazing because these machines, the machine that I ended up buying, which I'm told is the machine for cancer, they're made in this country. And anyway, so he said, this is what you need, this is the machine you need. And he said, I'll talk you through how to set it up, I'll tell you what the basic frequencies are, I'll help you. I've beat stage 4 prostate cancer with it, and I help people all over the world. I was like, oh my goodness. And 2 days ago, literally in 2 days, I've gone from not even thinking about Rife Machine to talking about somebody who's telling me the Rife Machine to buy. So I said to him, okay, I don't even know where to start. He said, where do you live? I said, I live in the UK. He says, give me a couple of hours. Within a couple of hours, he came back to me and said, there's a lady in Glasgow that would like to sell her Rife Machine. So within a week, I had a Rife Machine in my house. See, Dr. Jesus, oh my goodness, he delivers the goods. So when we will just hold his hand and function with him, he will take us wherever we need to go. But he'll take us on a journey that is individually for us. And I'm very careful not to be eager in trying to help people.
No, yeah.
Because it's so easy when people say, actually, I've had this diagnosis, and I think to myself, oh my goodness, yeah, I've done so much research now. I'm sure that this would happen, this would happen, this would happen, but of course, it's not my job. My job is just to encourage you to a place that you can believe that Jesus can do it for you. And if he can do cancer, he can do anything, guys.
Yep.
He can do any ailment you have. And if we will engage with the fact that the power that made the body heals the body, guys, that's actually faith. Okay? And it's actually faith in the Lord God Almighty. Because he's the one who made the body. He's the one who has the power. Okay? And just because we're not calling him God and giving him the credit, he is passionate about all of creation. He is passionate for all to have health and wholeness and everything that the blood of Jesus bought. The blood of Jesus bought everything for all humanity. Always, every day, all the time. It is freely available with no restrictions and no conditions, because that's who he is. He is a good, good dad. Okay, so let's get back to DNA, now thinking. So this is quite interesting. Researchers also found that HIV positive patients who had positive thoughts and feelings had 300,000 times more resistance to the disease than those without positive feelings.
Yeah.
300,000. So when you're feeling unwell, it's really quite challenging not to partner with it. But when we're feeling unwell, if we choose not to partner with it, it will be astounding how quickly you will stop feeling unwell. But partnering with it just takes you deeper into the unwellness place, if there's such a word. Now, please don't feel guilty if you do feel unwell, because, sometimes we are just unwell. But be gracious and kind to yourself and bathe yourself in Him. So when I was going through my journey, and after I'd had the first lot of chemo on the second round, this last journey, and I ended up with the thrombosed jugular, I felt pretty unwell. In fact, I had to discharge myself from hospital because they wouldn't discharge me because my life was what they were saying was, this is life-threatening. But I also knew that I was neutropenic, so I had no immune system, and I was right next to a ward with very, very sick people. So I'm like, I've got to choose. I'm either going to have this or I'm going to take my chances. So I prayed. I'm like, okay, Father, what's the thing for me to do here? He said, take yourself home. So I discharged myself from hospital and took myself home. But I needed to be holding His hand every day. And, the chemo wrecks everything really. And I would sit on the sofa, just trying to think of a really life-giving way to say this. Can't really get anything life-giving. I'd sit. I'm going to go with that. I'd sit on the sofa and I would just bathe myself in Him. And I would feel His presence next to me. And I'd be like, okay, you're here. It's me and you, and it's all good. And that's what I do. I just allow Him just to bathe me in His love. And I would sleep, and I'd wake up, and I'd sleep, and I'd wake up. And I would just allow Him to bathe me in His love. Knowing all the time that He has a plan. I knew that I'd walked myself into that, because remember I told you today, He told me I didn't have to have chemotherapy, and I made a different choice. But actually, even making that different choice, knowing that I'd actually muddied the water. How many times do we do that, hey?
Yeah.
We muddy the water because we don't listen, because we think, And actually I said to him, are you saying I mustn't have chemotherapy? He said, no, but you don't have to. And sitting here now, on the other side of it, I'm thinking I was totally off my head. Why did I make that choice? But He is gracious, and He is kind, and He's loving, and He's restorative. And I love the journey that he's had me on. And in fact, in that journey, I knew that there were things that he was teaching me for this next season, because that's how he works. And I know that I have to reprogram my DNA. I know that. For all sorts of reasons, which I won't go into now. But I have tests that tell me I need to reprogram my DNA. And that's okay, because I get to choose. And I have the power and authority to reprogram my DNA. So I love the fact that at some point in time, I'm going to have new tests. And it's going to prove that I reprogrammed my DNA. And I know that I'm going to be a gateway for lots of people to reprogram their DNA. Because nothing is wasted. And when I was right in the middle of that, I remember taking his hand and squeezing tightly, and through gritted teeth. You know how it is when you're in a season you don't really want to be in. You're just thinking, get me the hell out of here. You know that feeling? So my soul is saying that. Not even sure if that's acceptable language in this country, but it's acceptable. Excellent. So my soul is saying, get me out of here. And I said to the Father, I took his hand and I squeezed his hand, and I said, don't let me leave this season till you have taught me everything you want to teach me. Because I need to know it. Because I need it for the next season. And if I don't learn it now, I'm going to have to learn it later. So let's just get all the lessons done.
Yeah.
Let's just cram them all in. We want a really concentrated study course here. I want to come out with everything I need. So that's been my journey in trust and in enabling him to equip me with whatever it is that I need. Now, I don't exactly know what this season is going to look like. And I don't exactly know what the outworking of all of this is, other than, obviously, immortality and energy healing. And so that's been a kind of a blast so far. But I know that there's more. I know that there's even more in what he's walked me through that he wants to open up and facilitate through what I have allowed him to show me and teach me and reveal for the restoration of the body. So, looking back at this 300,000 times more resistance, the conclusion is that when we choose to engage toxic thoughts of unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, resentment, or irritation, we change our DNA, which changes our brain wiring. So you know when he talks about renewing your mind, he is literally saying that. And we can rewire our mind, literally.
Hallelujah.
So the good news is that a positive attitude and good choices around thinking rewired everything back to the original healthy, positive state. So this was the result of tests. Okay? So you engage with toxic thoughts and it rewires your thinking, but you can actually reverse that out through a change in thinking patterns. So, Romans 12:2, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. I find that fascinating. It's such an interesting scripture. And what he's saying is, hey guys, there's nothing new under the sun. The whole way in which the earth is trying to function is completely upside down to the way the kingdom works. So through our thoughts, we can we can be our own microsurgeons. As we make choices, we change the circuits in our brains. So do you remember that expression? I don't know if you have it here, but you would talk about the brain surgery. Brain surgeons, like, oh, he's the most intelligent person on the planet, the brain surgeon. Yeah? Okay. Hey guys, we're all brain surgeons.
Hallelujah.
We're all our own brain surgeons. And we can daily do brain surgery that changes who we are, how we think, changes our health and well-being. Literally, how you think can change your body. And it's been a fascinating journey for me, because as I've done more and more research, and the Lord has taken me and shown me various things, like that Heal documentary, there isn't a single person there that talks about any kind of Christianity faith, okay? There's lots of people that talk about spirituality, and actually, excuse me, I'm gonna say something that may be a little controversial, just for a change. So one of the things that he showed me really early on in my journey, when I was in the market offering spiritual readings and all that kind of stuff, and I said to you that, most of the people that came were non-believers. The believers never came anywhere near us because, we were so deceived and complete heretics. But what was really fascinating was I had such constraints around who God was and who could actually encounter him. So if you hadn't said that little prayer, you got no chance of ever finding him. And yet, I was meeting people who were telling me about their encounters with Jesus. Okay, so their particular choice was Buddha. And this completely baffled me. This completely wrecked every religious mindset that I had. What do you mean you're a Buddhist and you regularly meet Jesus? How dare you? That's my privilege. Hey, I pay the price. I go to church every Sunday. You just pop up every time you fancy and meet Jesus. How's that fair? I have to do coffee rotor and everything. But what I discovered was that in the realm of spirituality, Jesus manifests himself. He manifests himself to people that are hungry.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
The people who are looking for the truth. What I also discovered is that he presents himself as anything that they can cope with.
Yes, that's right.
So I had this one guy who used to come regularly, and we'd sit and we'd chat about spirituality. And he'd always say to me, yeah, stick your hands on me and give me some. And and he would tell me about this bright light that he encountered. But it wasn't Jesus. Definitely wasn't Jesus. He told me that categorically. It's not Jesus. I know what about Jesus? No, this is not him. This is pure love. This is a light so bright that it illuminates my whole body. This is so attractive, I can't live without it. But it's not Jesus. Fascinating, isn't it? And he doesn't even mind.
Right.
He just wants relationship. Call him what you like.
Yeah. Right.
He wants relationship.
Amen.
And he will reveal himself to the spiritually hungry.
Yes.
So when it comes to engaging with the spirit realm, when it comes to understanding how we're made and how desperately he wants us to be healed and whole, there are no conditions. He's just saying, hold my hand and trust me. See, that's the condition. Trust me. And even when we make mistakes, he's like, that's okay. I'll fix that. Now just trust me. Because that's the journey he wants to walk us along. That journey where we just trust him, where we're listening for his voice, where we're living in that place of rest, where there's no churning, where there's no... Do you remember I was telling you earlier today, the battle is in the head. So when you're fighting something, your head almost wants to generate the symptoms. And you're having to take authority over your head that is generating the symptoms in your body. And I knew that this was happening. I knew that this was happening because I would have a whole day, if I was busy and concentrating on other things, I could have a whole day with no pain in my body. And as soon as I thought about the condition, I'd immediately start to feel pain in my breast. And I'm like, oh. And I was, after a little while, I'm like, nah, I'm sorry, I'm actually not just buying into this anymore because my body is making this up. My body has an expectation. My body has a memory. My body has something. I can't explain it. But my body is trying to fool me into believing that there's something wrong here. And I'm not having it. Okay? So actually, the battle is in your head where you're having to take authority over what is happening. Now, what I'm not saying is it's all in your head, because it was very really not just in my head, as in the pain was very real. Okay? But equally, it was all in my head. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay? So when we understand that the battleground is in the head, and the solution is, Father, I trust you. So I would just keep going, Father, I trust you. Father, I trust you. Father, I trust you. Until the pain subsided. And then I'll get on and do something. So what I'm doing is I'm just sharing my journey with you. I'm not giving you any formulas. I'm just talking about how it was for me. Okay? Because in the realm of faith, that's what's necessary. In the realm of faith, it's necessary to be able to say, I trust you. And it can be anything. It can be, any area in your life. I'm not just talking about health necessarily. It can be any area in your life. Okay, so epigenetics. Science is proving that our body's ability to heal and repair itself is greatly affected by our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions, and intentions, for they have a profound vibrational effect upon our continually evolving genetic code. We are programmers of the code, and DNA activation is our software upgrade. Okay, so what I would like us to do now is, I would like us to do an activation. So I'm sure Steve or somebody will pop up here in a minute. Okay, so remember that, remember Joe Dispenza? I told you about the guy who was paralyzed who healed himself? Okay, so actually as a result of that, he actually went into neuroscience. He was like, okay, if I'm able to do this, I'm going to spend the rest of my life exploring this realm of science. And so a lot of his teaching online it's fascinating. So if you haven't come across him, YouTube him, he's amazing. Oh, there's a book there. What's it called? Becoming Supernatural. Isn't that fascinating? There are people out there talking about becoming supernatural. Hey guys, that's our domain. Just saying, just saying. Okay, so the body does not know the difference between the experience and the memory of the experience. This is massive here, guys. So if we put it differently, the body does not know the difference between the physical experience or a thought or imagined experience. So, you know how it is when you think about, so something happens, somebody breaks into your house, okay, and you are angry because they've invaded your space and, you're angry. They've taken your stuff and you're angry. And a week later, you're telling somebody about it, and actually, you can feel all that anger coming right back up again. Why? Because your body doesn't know the difference between the actual event or a memory of the event. Okay, and the actual event, when you go into that place of anger, it releases all that toxic stuff in your body. Okay, then you go back into telling somebody about it and you go tap back into that anger and you've got all that toxic stuff happening in your body again, because that's what happens. So what I'm wanting us to do is I'm wanting to do some activations now where we start to clear out some mucky stuff. So okay? Awesome. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your favorite place. I want you to remember the last time that you were there. And I want you to remember the feelings of joy and contentment that you felt. And I want you just to rest in that place and in the enjoyment of those emotions. I want you to recognize that those feelings are as real in the memory as they were in the physical event. Now we're going to expand this activation. You know, for a long time we've been taught to close down our imagination. Our imagination is not a second-class citizen. Faith is a substance and it is generated in our imagination. We use our imagination to think those thoughts that generate a substance, the substance of faith. I want you to embrace the peace and feel the love of the Father. And I want you to allow Holy Spirit to take your imagination and fuel your thoughts and show you whatever He wants to show you. I'm going to ask Him to show you some unhelpful thoughts that you have had about yourself that have reprogrammed your DNA. Now I'm going to ask him to show you how to unwind that process. Now I'm going to ask him to show you how to replace those thought processes. I'm going to ask him to show you some thought processes that have caused your DNA to tighten up. So now we're going to engage with his love and let his love disentangle that DNA. So what he wants to do now is he wants to bring some physical healing. And I can see that there's some physical ailments that relate to genetic changes in your DNA. So I'm going to ask you to put your hand on the part of your body that you need healing. And I'm going to ask a twofold thing. I'm going to ask him to unravel the genetic changes in your DNA. And I'm going to ask him to heal that part of your body. So what he's doing is he's unraveling the issue in your genetic code to manifest in physical healing. So just receive through your hand an impartation of his pure, unconditional love. Let the frequency of his love come through your hand into your body. Feel the energy. Just engage with him. Just engage with him and let him do it. Stay in that place of rest. Draw on the peace. Breathe in his peace. Just let him do it. Just let him do it. I want you to visualize Jesus standing in front of you. And he's putting his hand on your hands. Feel the heat of his hands on your hands. Just let it radiate right through your body. So I can see right now that he's doing things you're not even asking him for. Just let him do it. So as you're feeling small things change, just thank him. Just thank him for what he's done and press it for some more. Engage with his energy. One of the definitions of grace is divine energy. Engage with divine energy. So for quite a few of you, I can see an angel standing behind you with a massive big bowl. A bowl of oil. And he's pouring it into the top of your head. Just let him do it. If Jesus needed the ministry of the angels, we do too. Just let that oil flow. For some of you, I see an angel standing next to you with a scroll. So as you allowed him to reset some of your thinking, as you came into agreement with some of the stuff he showed you, that you've allowed him to reprogram, what he's saying is, you're ready. You're ready for a new mandate. Receive that scroll. Guys, you're doing so well. Some of you are going into really deep places. Just let him take you. Don't resist. Don't hold back. Just let it go. Just let it go. Because there's an exchange happening. As you're letting go of some of these old mindsets, and I see an exchange taking place, an exchange with your true identity. With who he really made you to be, as opposed to the lies you've believed for so long. For some of you, I can see him pulling out discordant strands of DNA. Just let him do it. Those discordant strands of DNA have completely overlaid your thinking patterns. And as he pulls them out, so much is going to shift. now he's saying, will you dream again with me? As you allow him to take you into a new dream, recognize that it's so much bigger than it has been because the body shifted and changed already. He's removed some of those constraints and he's opening up new possibilities that you will dare to believe. Place your hand back on that part of your body and press in for more. Just believe him. Some of the healing will be instantaneous. Some of it will manifest over days. Some of it will require you to follow his lead. He loves to play follow the leader. For those of you feeling a sensation where you have your hand, just press in deeper. And let him do it. Visualize the healing. Just engage with his presence. Just let it wash over you. He's doing all sorts of stuff right now. I just want to really honor you guys. You have allowed him to do so much. It has been such a privilege to watch what he's been doing. Just engage with his presence. I'm sensing right now in the room there's some of you guys that are looking for directional answers. And he just wants to open up some revelation around that for you. So just press in. He wants to speak direction. He wants to show you. Just let him speak. Don't try and understand it. Just let him speak. Remember, he's not asking you to make this happen. He's saying, will you let me do this for you? Will you let me make this happen? And when we don't have to make it happen, there's no responsibility other than, yes, Lord. Just Let him show you. And as you say yes, he will take your other hand and he'll lead you step by step. But you don't have to do anything other than follow his lead. And he wants you to do the things that make your heart sing. He just wants to love you. He is your Father, and he's saying, will you let me love you? And we're kind of getting to that point in the evening where we're going to round things up. I just want to make sure he's done everything he wants to do. Okay, he wants us to give thanks. He wants us to thank him for everything that he has done today. So let's just give him thanks.
Thanks to you. We give thanks to you. In our words, we give thanks to you. We give thanks to you. Thank you, Lord. Bless you. Thank you, Jesus, for the gifts that you have given us. Thank you, Jesus, for the gifts that you have given us. Thank you for intuition. Thank you, God. Thank you for that inner voice that directs us. Thank you for all the things that you've done in our DNA, in our thankful mind. Thank you, Jesus, for the gifts that you have given us. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Just thanks. Hallelujah. Just thanks. We say yes, Lord. Yes. We say yes, God. We say yes to everything today. We say yes for tomorrow. All throughout the week. We say yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, yes, Lord. We say yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, yes, Lord. We say yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. We say yes. Yes, Lord. so thankful, God, that you healed Lindy's heart. Coming to Seattle, it's the homish, beyond where the highways go, and the eagles fly. It's the homish, in the Grange, and we're so filled with joy. In the joy center, right in the center of Snohomish, in the center of your love, and you brought us, dear sister, all the way across the pond. Thank you, Lord. We say yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. And we stretch our hands out and say, bless, Lord. Bless, Lord. Bless you, sister. We say, bless, Lord. Bless, Lord. Bless our sister. We say, bless, Lord. Bless, Lord. Bless our sister. We're so thankful for you. Amen. We're so thankful for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Father, for the most amazing day.
Yeah.
To our live streamers, I'm sorry that we couldn't get you on time, but we're sorted now. So we'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So Rochelle, is there anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, this is.